Alright, so now we're going to start working on the live camera functionality. So in order to do that, we're going to have to add a dependency, and this dependency is going to be called camera. So let's go down here, and we're going to add camera, and the version we want is 0.5.8 and then +2. And we're going to run Flutter pub get, and now what we want is to create a new file, and we're going to call this file generate captions .dart. And in this file, we're going to create a stateful widget, and this is going to be called generate live captions. And let's import our required dependencies. So material.dart, and we'll just import the rest as we go. So to start, since we're going to be doing an HTTP request, we can just copy and paste all this code. So parse response and our fetch response functionality. And let's just copy and paste that into our state class. And we're just going to import that. And now we have a couple errors for our required packages. So we can just go back to home.dart. And let's just import HTTP mime, import that, our file, which is .io, media type, HTTP parser, JSON, convert, and then we have one more error, which is result text. So now let's just copy and paste this string, and we'll set it at the top. Let's just set some space. All right, beautiful. So now we're not getting any errors. But to start off, what we're going to work on is our camera. So there's a couple functions that we need to get our live camera to work. So the first thing we're going to start with is importing our camera package. So import package camera.dart, and then from here we're going to create a list of cameras. So camera description, and then cameras, and then we're going to create a controller. So camera controller, and we're going to create a boolean of take photo, and we'll set that to false. All right, so now we need to initialize our cameras. So we're going to create a init state function. So I can just write init s with my plugin, and we're going to set take photo equals to true, and we're going to have a detect cameras, and then after we detect the cameras, we're going to pass in this variable, create a new function, and we're going to initialize controller. Now we're getting two errors that we don't have these functions, so let's add in these functions. So the first one we'll create is detect cameras. So this is going to be a feature that returns void, and we'll be detecting cameras. And since this is a feature, it's going to be an async function, and we'll set our cameras variable equal to await available cameras. So now we're going to detect the cameras that the phone has. So now we've got rid of that error. Now the next error we need to do is to create a function called initialize controller. So in this, we'll create a new function, and we'll call it initialize controller. And in this function, we're going to set a controller variable equal to camera controller, and this is going to be cameras 0, since we're going for the back camera. If you wanted the front facing camera, this would be 1. And we're going to set the resolution preset to medium, since that's the quality we're looking for. Now, controller.initialize, and then after it's initialized, we're going to pass in an empty parameter, and we're going to check if it's already mounted. So if this is mounted, then return. Else, if take photo is true, then we're going to capture our image. So we're going to set the interval to be every 5 seconds. So const duration seconds 3. And then we'll set a timer, and this is going to be a periodic timer, and the interval will be interval, and then we'll set timer t, and then we'll capture pictures on every interval. All right, so we're getting an error, and the reason for that is because we need to import our Dart async folder. And now the only error we're getting now is our capture pictures function. And so every 5 seconds, we're going to call this function. That's what this function does. So if take photo is true, we're going to capture pictures every 5 seconds. So let's start creating that function. So this is going to be an async function, and we're going to set a string, just timestamp, and this is going to be equal to date time.now, and then we'll set milliseconds since each epoch, and then we'll string that. Next, we're going to set the directory, and this, you don't need to understand what's going on, but pretty much we're creating a external directory, and that's where we're going to get our image from, and then that image is what we're going to pass to our HTTP request. So to do that, we're going to do xdir, and that's going to be equal to await get application document directory, and set that. All right, so get application documents directory. Let me just okay, so the reason we're getting this error is because we don't have our path provider directory. So let's just import that package. So the first thing we need to do is just import path provider.dart, and we need to add it to our pubspec.yaml file. So let's go here, type path provider, and this is going to be version 1.4.5. We'll run flutter pub get, and this should fix this error. All right, beautiful. So now we can keep building our captures pictures function. So we're getting the application documents directory, and then from there we're going to create a string of dir path, and this is going to be equal to the interpolation of x dir dot path, and then we're going to get pictures and then flutter test, and then that's going to be our directory, and we're going to await directory dir path, and then we're going to create a cursive and set that to true. Now we can set our final string final file path, and we'll set this equal to our dir path, and this is going to be our timestamp. Oh, make sure we interpolate it. Timestamp. And this is going to be a PNG file. All right. And now this is going to be the name of our file. So what we're going to do now is we're going to take the photo. So just to reiterate, this is going to be the file name for our live image that we captured. And we're creating a file from that live image, and then we're going to pass that file into our HTTP request. So if take photo is true, then we want our controller to take a picture and set our file path, and then we'll set the then method, and we're going to pass in an empty parameter. And if take photo, once again, then we want our file image file equal to file path, and that's going to get our image file. Now what we want to do is send this image file to our response. So we'll set image file, and there you go. Now let's just add our semicolon here, and else if take photo is false, then we want to return, and that's all we're going to do. So now we have our image functions. Now the only thing we need to do is add a dispose function. So once the app closes, we want to dispose this. So void dispose controller dot dispose, and then we'll do super dot dispose, and make sure you override this method, and that should be good for all the camera functions. So in the next lecture, we're going to start building our scaffold, and we're going to build our camera preview. So I'll see you guys there. Just keep going, and I'll see you guys in the next lecture. Alright, so now we're ready to build the scaffold. So let's go into our build method, and instead of returning this container, we're going to want to return a scaffold. And in the scaffold, we'll set the body parameter equal to container. And in this container, we're going to have a decoration parameter, and we'll set this equal to a box decoration widget. And in this box decoration, we'll set the gradient property equal to linear gradient. And this is going to begin alignment dot top center, and alignment dot bottom center, stops 0.004 and 1, and the colors will be a list of colors, which will be color 0x11232526, and the next color will be color 0xFF232526, and that should be good for our box decoration. Let's just refactor our code. And all right, so now we can add a child to this container, and this child will be a column, and we'll set the cross-axis alignment parameter equal to cross-axis alignment dot start, and we'll have a children parameter, and the first child will be a container of padding edge insets dot only top 35, and the child of this container will be child icon button, and this is going to allow us to return to this page. So we'll set the color of this to colors dot white, the icon to icons dot arrow back iOS, And we'll have an onPressed parameter, and write the function out, and we'll set the state, and this is going to set the state of take photo equals to false. One sec, we're gonna get an error. So this error, all right, so now what we're gonna do is we're going to pop the context. So navigator, let's do this outside of set state. So navigator dot pop context. All right, so now we have our return button. So the next thing we're gonna want to do is go into container, and so if our controller dot value is initialized, then we want to show a widget, and this widget will be our live camera preview. So we'll set it in a center widget, and the child will be a widget called build camera preview. And we're going to build this function after we finish this logic, and else if this value is false, then we want to show an empty container. Now we're getting an error, and the reason may be because might be that might be the error. All right, so now we need to build this widget. So let's do that. So I'm going to copy this, and below our scaffold, and after this parameter, we're going to create a widget, and this is going to be called the variable build camera preview. And we're going to be initializing a variable called size, and this is going to be equal to media query dot of context dot size dot width, and we'll divide that by 1.2. Now we're going to be returning a column, and this is going to have a children, and the first child will be a container, and in this container we'll have child of column, and then another children parameter. So now we'll have a size box, and the height will be 60, and then we'll have a container, and in this container it will be of size, and the height will also be of size, so we'll have a square, and the child will be camera preview and our controller. All right, now the next thing we're going to want to do is add our prediction. So as you know, our prediction is stored in our variable result text, and so before we do that, let's just add a size box of height 40, and after this we'll add our text, and the text is going to say prediction is, and then new line, and we'll set some style, and this is going to be text style, colors dot white, font weight dot W900, and then finally the font size will be 25. All right, now after this text we want to show our actual predictions, so we'll add another text, and we'll put in our result text variable, and we'll set the style equal to text style and font size 16. Next we'll set the text align property equal to text align dot center. Now this should be it for our generate live captions class. So Now, the only thing we need to do is push this screen when we press the live camera button. So in order to do that, let's go back to home, and we're going to go down to our live captions button. And we'll go to the onTap method, and inside this function, we're going to do navigator.push, push our contacts, and we'll do a material page route in order to change screens. And we'll set the builder parameter equal to context, arrow, generate live captions. And we're going to send in this class. Now we're getting an error, and the reason is because we don't have our semicolon here. So we'll add in this semicolon, and now we're getting an error saying, so we may need to hot restart. So let's just stop the app and let's rebuild the application, because I don't think we restarted since we added our new packages. So let's wait for this to launch. But if everything goes as planned, it should be completed. So we'll just wait for this to build. All right. So now we're getting an error saying our min SDK version cannot be smaller than 21. So in order to fix this, let's go into our Android folder and go into app, build Gradle, and min SDK version. So what we need to do is set this to 21. So let's do that. And we will run this. Now let's just make sure that's what we need for iOS as well, if there's anything that we need to do. So we'll go to pub.dev and we'll look up our camera plugin. And as you can see, we need to add in these into our info.plist file. So in order to do that, all right, this warning's fine. It's not a big problem. It's just going to show up once. So let's go into our iOS folder, go into runner, go into info.plist, and we'll go to the bottom here, and we will add in these keys and strings. All right, and now it should work for iOS. We need to ask the user if we can use the camera, and the same with the mic. But now it should work. So let's minimize out of this, and let's test out this live camera. Let's see if it works. First thing we need to do, allow. All right, so now we're getting an error. All right, so the reason we're getting this error is because we need to add a set state method in between the initialize controller, and this is going to initialize the controller, and it's going to get rid of that warning. And the next thing, if you're getting an error similar to this one, where you're getting an unexpected character, the reason may be because you might need a new URL. So do the same process as before, do free trial, and then create your Max Image Caption Generator API, and grab the new URL. Now, we're creating a temporary account, so our URL might become obsolete after a certain amount of times. So you're going to want to create a new URL, and that's what I've done here. And I'm going to replace this URL with the new one that I created, and this I will replace with model and predict. Now, if I hot restart this app, all the warnings and errors should go away, and I should be getting a prediction every 5 seconds on my live camera. So, all right, and let's see in 5 seconds. All right, beautiful. Now we're getting a prediction every 5 seconds. And as this emulator is on my computer, I can't grab the images, but if I were to install this application and build it on a actual phone, it's going to do those predictions live. So just make sure you build this onto an actual physical phone if you want to use this in real life. But now we're just getting an error saying we're overflowed on the bottom. So what we can do to fix that is let's go to our scaffold. And the first thing we're going to do is let's reduce this padding. We'll set it to 15. And the next thing we can do is change this. Let's do 30. And now the final thing is change the font color. So color equals colors.white. Now this should turn white. And let's increase the size to 30 so we can differentiate the two text. And actually let's just turn this to, let's do yellow. All right, beautiful. So now, actually there's one more thing I want to do, and that's just add a padding on top of this. We'll do 20 just because that doesn't look too professional. And this, there's a lot of room right here. We don't need that much. Let's do 20. And all right, that should be good. But as you guys can see, we're getting our prediction, and it is a live camera. The only thing is that we don't have an actual camera on our computer, so it's only displaying this preset image. But if we wanted to make the prediction every 3 seconds, we can definitely do that just by changing this timer. And we're going to be passing this interval, and then every interval, so every 5 seconds, we're capturing a picture. And yeah, so this is pretty much it for this app. We've accomplished a lot in this app. And yeah, so we can do a bunch of cool stuff like go into our camera roll, fetch it. But as you can see, we are getting this error once again. So to fix that, we need to change the URL link. So I'm going to copy this URL and I'm going to paste it into my take photo, or I'm gonna paste it into my fetch response. Now, if you wanted to keep this URL and not have to change it, you'd have to create an account on Red Hat OpenShift, and then you can use it permanently. If you want to build an app for the iOS store, then that's all you have to do. But now, if I do take camera roll, let's grab this image, and there you go. Now we're getting our predictions. So that's pretty much it. And yeah, I'll see you guys in the next app. If you guys have any questions, comments, or concerns, please let me know in the comments and I'll be more than happy to help. See you guys there.